Hey guys, welcome back to the Honda Resource. Today's episode, we're going to be lowering our 99 first gen Honda CRV. We're going to be doing this using Maxpeedingrods Coilovers. We did have a few hiccups along the way, but we got those issues resolved with the help of our friends over at Maxpeedingrods, and we've made those changes, hopefully, to where you guys can have the best product that you have. So make sure you watch through the video, see the problems that I have, and then see the solutions that we came up with in order to resolve those issues and to get it looking like this and have a decent product. So stay tuned, let's get to this video. So as many of you probably are already aware, I have a lifted K-Spot first gen Honda CRV, and then recently I acquired this 99 manual still stock B20 CRV, and we're doing a little something different with this one. You can see I picked up a set of wheels for it. Yes, I know I've got to fix those wheel studs. It has two on it right now. It had two broken when I got it, and then when I was taking off the other wheels, another one broke. So yikes, big yikes, right? So I've just got it slapped on there right now. These are reps, they're not real, right? But they're real if I can touch them. With the new wheels though, we can't be having it with this huge fender gap. This ain't a lifted deal, right? So I reached out to the friends over at Maxpeedingrods, and we've got a set of their new coilovers for the Honda CRV, and we're gonna be slapping these bad boys on the RD1 and giving a little bit of a height adjustment. If you know what I mean, we're going down low. I was sitting here about to edit this video and I remembered I didn't say nothing about the discount code. If you're interested, instead of the Maxpeedingrods Coilovers, check out their link in the description and use the discount code YEET1. I'll also put that in the description. That'll give you a certain percentage off. I don't really recall what it was, but it's a discount code. Check it out. I've heard mixed reviews on Maxpeedingrods Coilovers. I've used them on a couple of cars in the past and had okay results. Really the only one that wasn't that enjoyable was the Honda Fit that we put them on. So they work okay on the Accords, besides not really going low enough on the Accords. But again, a lot of those coilovers that we used were Maxpeedingrods first editions, and now they've had several revisions and they've come out with a much nicer quality product. And these are adjustable dampening. You can see how it has the knob on top, and they are 24 way, so it has 24 clicks. So on the front I'm going to be going about halfway, and on the rear probably do halfway at first and then adjust it accordingly to see kind of what it's feeling like, how it feels, and just go from there. These do kind of come preset already. I did turn the bottom all the way in, so I just loosened this nut here and I turned this all the way in, so it's literally bottomed out in here. And then I'm going to measure the overall length here to here to make sure that they're set the exact same, because I don't want it sitting sideways. It's not Houston, okay? We ain't sitting sideways. Not here in Alabama. And we ain't in North Carolina either, so we ain't, we ain't gonna toot the front up and leave the back, dropped. We ain't doing none of that either, no. Anyways, let's get to installing these. Got a huge gap. Huge gap. Let's fix it. I'm not going to do you guys like that. I'll actually show you what it's going to take to lower it. Let's check it out. Alright, so I'm going to start with the rear. So here in the back, you can see I got all kinds of stuff back here. I got some other stuff I got to install, some other brakes and airbox and brake lines and all that kind of stuff. But what we're looking for is this little access panel right here. Should be able to just pop it off with your finger. But you may have to get a little pry tool or something to get under the edge of it. Pop it up. And it's going to give us two 14mm nuts right there and right there. Do not take this one off. Damage yourself. Don't do that. So we got to take off this 14 and that 14, and that will loosen the top of the shock. Okay, so I got it lifted up now, and now I got to take the wheel off. So 19mm on most Hondas. So we'll go ahead and zip these back off real quick, and then we'll have the wheel off and out of the way. All right, now with the wheel off, I just went ahead and sprayed some WD-40 here where the shock goes through the lower control arm. We do live in Alabama here, and we don't really have much problems with rust as you can see, like the quarters are perfect. That's kind of unheard of to see a CRV in a lot of places with perfect quarters. So anyways, I just sprayed a little bit of WD-40 on that. It has a nut kind of built onto the back side here, so you can't take that off. That is a 14 millimeter also, so we'll take out this 14 millimeter, and then it should allow the shock to come down, and then we'll finagle it to get it out of here. See, came right out. There we go. It was just kind of stuck in that lower control arm. Boop. Right there it is. So I went ahead and took the other shock off the other side as well, just because it makes it simpler not having to fight the sway bar, because if you're just doing it one side at a time, the sway bar will be fighting you. But if you do them both at the same time, the sway bar can go up and down with both sides and not just the one. So now this will be a spot where it'd be good to have a friend to help, because somebody could be inside hooking up the two nuts on top while you're holding up the shock for them to get that. I've just developed other ways to be able to do this, and I have a feeling the rear are going to go a lot lower than the front. It bottomed out there. So once that bottomed out, then I'll turn this nut back down and measure it real quick and see what the measurements look like on it. What I'm going to do is probably just put the shock up in here like this, and then jam a block of wood between the lower control arm and the shock to be able to get the top nuts on there. And so I'll just lift this up into place where it needs to be, and then put a block of wood there under it. And by doing that, it holds it up where I can get those top nuts on. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side too. That way I can just tighten them all at the same time. And so now you can see the shock sits up through there enough that I can get the nuts started. The same on this side over here. And for me, I just always like reusing the factory nuts if they're in good shape, just because they're original 14 as opposed to the aftermarket that are usually like a 15 or greater, and it gives you room for clearance between this lip where the shock protrudes through and the nut. It just makes it easier, in my opinion. So that's what I do, and it seems to work. So that's what I'm gonna keep doing, right? So I got both of those tight up in the back. Typically, to get this lower control arm up to where it needs to be, you can use a floor jack or something and put under this and jack it up to where you can line your bolt up. I don't have a floor jack in here right now because someone borrowed it and hasn't brought it back. So I've just got a piece of steel tubing here. I'm just gonna walk it under this and wedge it into the floor and pick it up. With any luck, we might get it high enough without having to let the lift down. So it looks like we may have to let the lift down just a smidge. All right, come on down just a little bit more. It may be too low. I may have to raise these coilovers up a smidge because it's still not down to definitely weird going this direction with them. Normally I'm fighting to get them in, going the other direction. Now these right here, you don't want to have them 100% tight until you set the car on the ground, then you can tighten it down. Otherwise it'll prematurely wear your bushings out in the bottom of the shock. All right, so we just got it lowered down to the ground, and wow, it's got a little bit of clearance in there. I'm not really a huge fan of the stretch tires. I may go up just a little bit in order to make sure that I don't have to have stretched tires, but it does look good. It does look good. I guess we'll see how it goes once we get the front lowered. It's got that Carolina squat right now. You know, I told you we weren't going to do that, but you know, it looks like we're actually doing it here, boy. So it's got that lean, you know what I mean? Yay, yay. So on the front, it's very similar to the rear. You gotta take off the wheel, and then we'll get the old shock out, and then we'll get the coilover installed. So just like on the back, we have two 14mm nuts. Don't take off the one in the middle again because you don't want to harm yourself. Don't take that one off. Take those two off. I've already done it over here. You can see there. Got the coilover installed over here. You gotta take out that 14, 17 at the bottom, and then the two 14s up here, and we'll get the shock out. Pretty straightforward. Now let me grab this coilover and we'll get it back installed. I didn't tighten the top ones all the way, I just left them loose so that I can go ahead and get everything on the bottom done, and then we'll tighten the ones on the top. All right, so that pretty much wraps up installing the coilovers on the front. It's very simple, very straightforward, just a few bolts and a little bit of time. Now, I'm gonna put the wheels back on it and just lower it down, see how low it is. I don't really expect it to be super low like the back. We'll find out. Well, I didn't mess with the preload on them at all, nor did I mess with the preload on the rear, but you see how low the rear went. And the front still, I can put my fist in here. So I may have to let the preload down on these some and see what happens. I was hoping to be lower than that. I'm expecting the fender maybe like here. So I get another 2 inches down. All right, so I took every bit of the preload out that I could possibly take out. I basically adjusted that perch all the way down to where it's touching the bottom. All right, and then the bottom cup is already all the way up, which will make it as low as it can possibly be right now. It does still have some shock play, so it's not, the shock itself isn't bottomed out internally. But I can't imagine that the shock's gonna have any kind of lifespan with it having no preload on it. So I guess we'll try it out and see. But I don't know why they would make coilovers that when you put them on with actual preload so that you're not bottoming out the shock, it would be so high. People buy coilovers to go low. I reached out to my contact over at Maxpeedingrods, and they sent me over some replacements. So I'm gonna get one of these out and go ahead and get everything swapped over and then compare it to the old one so I can show you guys the comparison of the two. Okay, so first and foremost, I do want to thank Maxpeedingrods for their willingness to do some R&D here, and we got a couple combinations we're going to be trying out. So again, they did send me a shorter damper here. This is a damper, the shock body essentially, and they sent me a shorter spring. As you can see, that spring is much shorter than the other one, and this damper is much shorter than that one because it's already, this part is already bottomed out in this cup down here on this one. So I think what I may try to do initially before I try the shorter spring is to put all this assembly onto just a shorter shock, because again, we're just doing some R&D at this point for Maxpeedingrods, trying to improve their product so that it could be the best product for you guys and to make sure that they're outputting the best that they can. So what we're going to do is go ahead and get one of these torn down and then get all the stuff swapped on to this actual shock body and see where we stand. All right, so I've got this one kind of pre-assembled here. When I was talking to my Maxpeedingrods representative, I kind of mentioned a Civic coilover and seeing if that would work. And they just said that they had some other ones they would send. So what I've done here is I've put all the other, I went ahead and used the new spring that came with the new shock and took out that longer one, because I could put the longer one in there and I may still, I'm not sure. We'll find out after we do some test driving with it on the road and stuff. And also with it like this, it surprisingly rode pretty well. I drove it down the road just about half a mile or so, and it rode pretty well considering that it has no preload on it. I just want to be able to have it actually low and still have some preload on the springs. So kind of what I did here is just kind of imagine that you know, the top hat sits right at the top of this spring. Again, the spring was not preloaded, so I've kind of got them set up to where it's about the same overall length. I think, yeah, roughly the same overall length. But again, I was able to turn this preload in on this, and I can still turn the preload in more because there's more threads up here that I can turn this nut up and increase the preload to where it would have some preload in the spring and save the life of the actual shock body. Because what we're after here is we want to have a good ride quality while also having longevity out of the product. So that's what we've set up here. These would probably work pretty well for a lifted CRV, honestly, because you could adjust the preload up and then have this down more like to where this one's at, because this one's just in, this one is in the bottom cup just to here, whereas before with it in the way it is now, I mean, you can see, let's see, I've got them held pretty even. You can see how far down in there. I mean, it's quite literally bottomed out in this cup, to whereas now it's just in here this far. So I mean, you know, it can come up to where it's that much higher, and this gives you a whole, you know, another couple inches up here. And then plus, if you add the preload onto the spring, it's going to give you a much higher ride than stock. So this may be a good option for lifted CRVs. You know, maybe we can do some kind of R&D with Maxpeedingrods for the yeeter, because, you know, I have the lifted CRV also. But, you know, with the lowered CRV, we want it to be low but have ride quality. So that's what we're working on here. So let's go ahead and get everything swapped over on this one, and then hopefully get them back onto this CRV and see how we're working. So we got both of them set up now. Hopefully got the preload and everything set the same on both of them. And you got the bottom about the same spot. So now there's nothing to do but to install them back on the CRV, and then we'll see where we sit height-wise, and if we need to adjust the preload up to where we can get it to sit a little bit higher if it's too low, because you know that it was sitting just about right before, and this is about the same height as it was, but we could definitely go lower or we could go higher. So now we have options to where before we were as completely as low as she would go. I did notice that before, while I was tearing the other one apart, I put it where it's adjusted similar to this and did some measurements on it using, you know, the original shock and the original spring. And the measurement overall of it, with it adjusted similar to this, with it barely in the cup here, preload on the spring, it was about the same length as the shocks that are on my lifted CRV. So maybe we can work out something where we can do a lifted setup of Maxpeedingrods Coilovers along with a properly set up lowered set. So that's the goal right now. But we got to get these figured out first, and then maybe we can work with Maxpeedingrods on developing a lifted setup of coilovers for the CRV. Anyways, let's get these back on here and see how it looks. All right, so now we have both the shocks on, as well as having both of the wheels on. Just had this one repaired, it was cracked, so First time back on the CRV for it too. Let's see where we're sitting. Okay, so again, I haven't done anything but turn the preload up on that, so we got plenty of adjustment on that bottom cup to turn this down. So we're looking really good right now. I'm very satisfied with how this is, and yeah, we can only go down from here, you know what I mean? So yeah, this looks excellent. I'm very happy with that. You can see we still have some springy, so that's good. We may try to you know, talk to Maxpeedingrods and see if maybe we can get a slightly stiffer spring for the front. I'm not sure what spring rate those were. You know, it's just the ones they sent me to try, but you can see it does feel a little soft. There's 24 clicks on these, so, and they were all the way on soft. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I just put them at 12, which is halfway on the dampening. You can see it did stiffen them up some. So what we'll do is we'll do some driving with them. I'm probably going to turn that lower piece up on the shock itself, to where it will take out a little bit more of this gap. One thing I am concerned about on this is the upper control arms. The upper control arms tend to get stuck on the CRVs when you go super low. So I may trim them up. I would like to get a camber kit for this, to where we could definitely go low and not worry about the control arms getting stuck. So yeah, but anyways, let's I'm going to raise it back up on the lift and go ahead and turn that lower adjustment up some, and that way it'll give us a little bit lower here, and see how we're looking then. You can see it's right at the top of the wheel, and I mean, there's a little bit of gap in here. Like I can barely squeeze my hand in here, right? But this is significantly better than the original coils that came with this kit. So night and day difference completely, like 100% satisfied with this setup. And we still have plenty of spring ability. I did preload the springs a little bit more, and I just turned the bottom adjuster up. So there's still plenty of room for it to go lower, but I want to get some different upper control arms, or shave these first. I've read the EK upper control arms do work. They're a little bit shorter, which would help me keep from tearing up my fender or having to roll the fender, that kind of stuff. On the back is kind of cambered in a little bit factory. I am going to get a camber kit for the rear, turn it in just a little bit because it's rubbing right. You can see where some of that plastic is coming off in there where I drove it down the road. So definitely want to get the camber kit for the rear, and probably just do the EK control arms, upper control arms on the for now, and that'll camber them in a little bit, and then we'll see how that goes. I still got to get a new bumper for the front and rear and do plenty of stuff. This project's not very old. So hopefully with this research and development, if you will, Maxpeedingrods can refine their coilover kit, and then maybe in the future we can, like I said, possibly work on some lift coilovers. So there's not very many lift coilovers on the market, so I think that would be a really good sell for Maxpeedingrods if they could come out with some lift coilovers. And it looks like the front ones would definitely work, the ones that came with the original kit. And we would just have to do a little bit of research and development to develop some rear coilovers. So hopefully here in the near future we'll be getting that as well. So yeah, super happy with how this turned out. Again, shout out to Rena over at Maxpeedingrods, so helping me get all this stuff situated, because without her none of this would have been possible. And it also helps the community, because I mean, like I told her, people are buying coilovers to go low. They're not buying coilovers to have a huge gap on the front if your spring's preloaded. So she's like, well, what can we do to fix it? And this is what we came up with. And like I said, definitely satisfied. Hopefully we'll be getting a road test on this thing pretty soon. Like I said, I got to get those camber kits, and then I need alignment. I'm sure all the toe and all that kind of stuff is completely off. because it changes all the angles and stuff whenever you lower it, especially lower it to the point that this is. So, but like I said, it did ride decent with the coilovers that came with it, with the preload completely whacked out of it. But I don't know how long those shocks would last with no preload on the spring and just bottoming out essentially on the shock itself. So like I said, this should be a much better setup overall, and we're gonna see how it works out. You know, guys, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. You know, I don't want to BS none of my followers. You know, I like to give it to you like it is, and that's why I'm showing you the original coilovers and telling you that I really wasn't that satisfied with them. But Maxpeedingrods, like I said, came through, and we were working on a solution, and hopefully have that available to all you guys for purchase as well. So anyways, guys, thanks for stopping by and checking out this video. If it was helpful to you, make sure you smash the like button below and leave me a comment down there also. Let me know what you think about our solution to get it to where we have some kind of ride quality with the front. And hopefully, like I said, the changes that we've made will be implemented to the future products for Maxpeedingrods. And yeah, thanks. Like I said, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.